Was hoping the Brewers would get on a little bit of offensive roll after putting up 9 runs on Monday night. Not the case. They scratched out 2 runs in a 6-2 loss to the Dodgers on Tuesday night. They did have some opportunities, couldn't take advantage of a big break with the Dodgers starting pitcher Syndergaard leaving after 1 inning pitched. We'll get into all that. And should the Brewers have second thoughts right now on Luke Voit? All that more coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a very good evening or early good morning to you all out there. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. After a Brewers 6-2 loss to the LA Dodgers, Brewers won the opener 9-3, came right back, got down early, and never caught up. Yeah, we're going to talk a little about Luke Voit here because his numbers are staggering bad, and they keep running him out here. But maybe there's an alternative down at Triple A. Talk about that coming up here in a little bit. Also, the Brewers did not get a very good start out of Eric Lauer. Locked On Brewers. I'm your host, Chuck Freeman. Been covering the Brewers for over 40 years for AP Radio, the morning sports anchor at 1310 WIBA in Madison. And the Milwaukee Brewers are my favorite professional sports team in the state of Wisconsin. And I love covering them, and I love following them. And like you, we are trying to break this drought of, 41 years now of not making the postseason to the World Series, that is. Have made the postseason, have had a couple of false hopes in those postseason runs, but nonetheless have not got back to the World Series since the 1982 season. All right. Of course, you could follow us on Google Podcasts. You could follow us on Spotify, or you can get us on the Apple Podcasts and the video version of it, Locked On Brewers on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit that like button there. I'll tell you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. We are your team every day. Follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. Enjoy reading your comments during the game, after the game, before the game, whenever. And of course, we use some of your comments right here on the show on the third part of the show towards the end. So we'll be getting to those a little bit later on here in the show. But your comments also on YouTube. There's a little comment section if you want to put something on there. It would be great to hear from you. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And you everydayers out there, we enjoy hearing from you all the time on Twitter. I know who you guys are. You watch this show every day, whether you're going to school, taking the kids, or whatever. Locked On Brewers, the number one podcast on the internet. The Brewers played the Dodgers in the final game of that 3-game set, 12:40 coming up on Wednesday afternoon. Catch every pitch of Brewers' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Brewers. This show is also brought to you by eBay. I gotta get my glasses out. See, some of the show I do with my glasses off, and some I do it on. Now, when I read a script, I got to do it with it on. And here it is. eBay Motors, a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Motors brings you Locked On Brewers today. All right, let's get to it. A 6-2 loss to the Dodgers. Got down 6-0. Eric Lauer made the start. Pitched into the 4th inning, 3 2/3. Gave up 2 home runs, including a leadoff home run to Mookie Betts to start the game. Not a good way. And you got an early bad vibe from Eric Lauer. And, quite frankly, he's 3-4 this year. Has not pitched all that great. He had one really, really good start. But with Eric Lauer, along with some of these other guys at the back end of the rotation, you're going to have to come out and hit. All right. When the Brewers were down 6-0, it was game, set, and match. He was responsible for 4 home runs, he was responsible for 2 of the 3 home runs that the Dodgers have hit. But yeah, but is it too much to ask him to be a little bit more consistent out there? Does anybody really have any faith when Lauer takes the hill for the Brewers? I don't, because I know when he's on the hill, it's like the offense better come to play, because he's not going to pitch them to a 3-2 victory. That's for sure, and go deep into the game. And it got off to the bad start, like I said, with Betts hitting the leadoff home run, and that was it. Now, the Brewers had a chance to take advantage of this. Syndergaard stuck around for an inning, left with the bad hand, and the Dodgers end up winning this game and closing out the Brewers using 7 relievers. They just rolled them out there, and one after one had their way with the Brewers offense until late in the game. The Brewers did hit a couple of solo home runs. Rowdy Tellez hit his 10th. Victor Caratini hit one as well. 2 solo home runs late in the game put the Brewers on the board. The Brewers threatened a couple of times late in this game, but could not come up with a clutch hit and lose. But I just thought when Syndergaard went out after an inning, I thought, okay, here's a time to attack them offensively. Let's get some runs. Let's get some production. And it was not the case. They had just like 2 hits through the first 7 innings. And I just thought it was kind of weak. Maybe one of their weakest offensive sets of the year, where they just couldn't do anything when the Dodgers were throwing out bodies to try to suck up some innings early in this game, and the Brewers couldn't get anything going. Now, hopefully, the Brewers can get the Kershaw tomorrow and attack that pen, because that pen was pretty much used up. But we'll get to that here in a little bit, because it's a lefty on the hill for the Dodgers. And as we know, the Brewers are not good against left-handed pitching. Brewers are not good at all against left-handed pitching. So that was a downer. The series is even up at 1-1 now with Los Angeles. And the Dodgers came in here on a roll. They had won 8 of 9. The Brewers beat them on Monday night. The Dodgers came back and took Tuesday night's game, but a critical game 3 of this series coming up before the off day, and Kansas City coming into town on Friday. Boy, I would love to get this game against Kershaw. And they haven't had a great deal of luck against Kershaw. In fact, when I tell you about some of the numbers that this current roster has had against Kershaw, you would run to the pay window and bet the house on the Dodgers tomorrow, because it is not good. Now, thank God Miley is on the hill for the Brewers, who's been one of the better starters. But we'll talk about his last performance and what we hope for him coming up on Wednesday afternoon, those midweek afternoon game. You know, those are my favorite next to Sunday afternoon games out at AmFam Field. All right, we're going to get to the box score coming up next. We'll talk a little about Luke Voit and maybe if there's a better option for him in this lineup, because right now he's not giving them anything at all. Had a bleeder late in the game, but to me, he is just not good right now, and it's killing the team whenever they got to run him out there. Killing the team each and every game. All right, Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. This part of the show brought to you by Sorare. Sorare, new sponsor here on Locked On Brewers, a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans and owners with officially licensed cards featuring players from all across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, Sorare managers truly own their own baseball experience. They collect, they buy, they sell, and compete with player cards against global opponents to win an epic award or two. That's possible. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting more powerful cards and next-level competitions and rewards. Sorare Major League MLB game weeks happen twice a week, a span of a 3 or 4 day cycle. At the end of the game week, Sorare MLB managers who rank at the top or near the top of their leaderboards will win a variety of awards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, VIP experience. So head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled Sorare, SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards and set your lineup. Start competing today to win epic awards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. And of course, the Brewers and Dodgers will wind up that 3-game set at AmFam Field, 12:40 coming up on Wednesday afternoon. And of course, you can get the broadcast, the Brewers hometown broadcast, with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Brewers. That's this afternoon, 12:40 with that first pitch. Thanks for making Locked On Brewers your first listen to every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. Again, my Twitter account, Chuck Freeman, Freimund. All right, before we get to Luke Voit, let's get through the box score here and see what happened with the Milwaukee Brewers. Not a lot of excitement on this game, a 6-2 loss. But here's what happened for the Brewers. Christian Yelich went 1 for 3. Jesse Winker went 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Luke Voit came in and pinch hit, went 1 for 2, had a bleeder in the 8th inning, left side. But still, he's batting .217. Willie Adames went 0 for 4 after he had homered in each of the last 2 games. Rowdy Tellez, his 10th home run of the year, solo shot. The big fella got into it, and that was his only hit. He went 1 for 4. Brian Anderson continues to slide. He went 0 for 4. Victor Caratini went 1 for 3. Bryce Terang went 0 for 4. Tyrone Taylor went 1 for 4. Joey Weimer 0 for 3, down to .215. Eric Lauer, the Brewer starter, just was not any good this evening. Went 3 2/3, 4 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned, 4 strikeouts, but 2 home run balls in 67 pitches. Need better from Eric Lauer, but is it possible to get better from Eric Lauer? Is it possible that the Brewers can actually get some quality starts from this guy? He takes the loss. He's now 3 and 4. So with the Brewers trailing, they're going to bring in Bryce Wilson, and he gave up a 2-run home run, 2 1/3. He actually sucked up some innings with 2 hits. But, in this game, the Brewers weren't coming back. You just knew the Brewers were going to come back and win this game anyway. And so this is where it's a perfect situation for a guy like Bryce Wilson. Gus Varlin, who's trying to work his way back, an inning and a third, 1 hit, 3 walks, also hit a batter. He got out of it without any damage, but he just wasn't his control was all over the map. Elvis Peguero, inning and 2/3 that he sucked up, 1 hit, 1 walk for Elvis. So, the bullpen came in when Eric Lauer didn't have to use any of our front line guys, but who are those front line guys in the bullpen besides Strez and Devin Williams? So bullpen should be in good shape for tomorrow in the final game of the series. Okay, Luke Voit right now. The numbers on him against left-handed pitching, and I know a lot of these hitters are not good in this Brewer lineup, are not good against left-handed pitching, but he's 2 of 29 with 17 Ks. Against the right-hander earlier tonight, he did hit a base hit, but still maybe Keston here is not much better against left-handed pitching. And I can never figure that out. Why Keston is so bad against left-handed pitching. He eats up the right-handers, but he does well against the right-handers. But against the lefties, not good. But he's got 10 home runs down at Triple A. Let's give him a shot. Right-handed hitter. Luke Voit is on this roster because Keston Hiura is not. I would be good with the switch out at this point. Now, I don't know if there's something in Luke Voigt's contract that would preclude him from getting sent down, but those numbers for Voit tell me he's not producing. And I was glad when the Brewers picked him up in the offseason. I thought, okay, got a home run history between a couple of teams last year, still put up over 20 home runs, but no power, nothing. The other day, he hit a long single to the base of the wall. I thought he should have had a double on that. I was disappointed. Struck out at the 9th inning, ahead in the count 3-1. He still went down swinging. I'm good with trying a different option at this point with Hiura. And I know we've given Hiura plenty of opportunities and plenty of chances. And in this country, why not give Keston Hiura another shot? Okay. Who knows? It may not work out. I'm not talking about putting Hiura in the everyday lineup, but let's give him a little shot. One more. I'm okay with giving him one more shot. If you were to tell me tomorrow I could trade out Hiura for Voit, and this is basically a combination of Voit being so bad and Hiura putting up some nice numbers at AAA, I'd be good with that trade out right now. If we could do it right now, I'm all in on Keston Hiura getting another shot on this team. Hey, like I said, in this country in sports, we've given players second, third, fourth opportunities at trying to win spots on rosters. I think there's still something there with Keston. I don't know what, but he's better than Luke Voit is right now. And I take the trade-off. One other thing, great to see Joe Thomas throw out the first pitch. Hall of Fame tackle out of Brookfield Central to be precise. Cleveland Brown. Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer, threw out the first pitch. Really cool to see him do that today. All right, we're going to get to your tweets coming up here in a little bit. Also, in my comment section here on YouTube, love to hear what you think about maybe trading out Keston Hiura and sending down or doing whatever you want with Luke Voit, because there's no power there. There's nothing going on. I don't know. A lot of promise a few years ago with the Yankees, but nothing. But love to hear what you had to say on Twitter about that. And of course, you could make the comments here on YouTube. Like to hear what you have to say. We're going to take a break and come right back here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. Appreciate all you everydayers out there who tune us in religiously here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're here after every game, win or lose, weekends as well. Weekends we run a little shorter, but I know some of you guys out there, guys and ladies, will follow us every day, and even on weekends you find some time. I shorten them up on little weekends because I know you're busy and got stuff going on. So half hour during the week, 15 minutes on weekends. But anyway, in any way you slice it, we are covering your Brewer baseball right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. All right, let's get to some of your tweets here. See what you all had to say, and then we'll check out Wednesday's matchup, the matinee on getaway day for the Brewers taking on the LA Dodgers in the final game. I put out the tweet about mid-game. Well, this game is headed in the wrong direction. Wasn't counting on a win with Lauer pitching anyway, but was hoping for a little bit of offense. Of course, nothing. All right, let's get to some of your tweets here we got time for. Dan writes, Lauer stinks this year, just like Ashby did last year. I wonder if the Brewers will sign Lauer to a $40 million extension too. Highly unlikely, in the words of Gorilla Monsoon. COVID reply guy says he doesn't have any options remaining, but let's give Hiura one final look. How about that? Now, he wrote that an hour before I did this podcast. Didn't even watch the podcast, and he put that in there. Dave writes, well, back to feast or famine for the Brewers, I guess. And that's the way it always is for the Milwaukee Brewers, right? Feast or famine. One day, great. Moving guys over, hitting home runs. And the next day, nothing. Nothing at all. And that's really frustrating, because you win tonight, and then you roll your chances to try to take the 3-game sweep against the Dodgers. No, the Dodgers are one of the best teams in baseball. And they got off to a slow start this year, but got it rolling here in the last week and a half. Had a nice series against San Diego. A little bit of letdown Monday night, but the Dodgers will be in the top 5 in people's power rankings at the end of the year or by midseason. They're going to get on a roll. Like, I'm afraid the St. Louis Cardinals are starting to get on a roll. They won their 3rd straight tonight. Broke up a tie game late, and 6-4 winners over the Cubs. And the Cardinals have won 3 in a row now. Brock at SB says, DFA Voit and bring back Hiura. Let Hiura hit against right-handed pitching. I'll bet he'll have a fine year. Let's make it happen, Matt, as in Matt Arnold. All right, that's a few of your tweets today. Let's see if anything else here. Alex says Brewers are getting nothing from Voit and Winker. Is Hiura worth a look? He's crushing it in the minors. A lot of people getting on the Keston Hiura train. Hey, we get frustrated with Keston as well because of what we've seen. We've seen signs of greatness and game-winning home runs and grand slams and all that. And then a week later, he comes out and can't hit at all and is going over and over and over in the everyday lineup, and we're getting frustrated with him. So I get it, but you need some runs, you need some offense, you need some consistency, and Luke Voit is not providing it out of that spot. All right, the windup of Wednesday's getaway day, and if you look at the numbers on this, and Adam McCalvy, very highly respected, always on top of things from Brewers.com, good friend. He wrote about facing Clayton Kershaw in one of his tweets. Now, Kershaw's coming in with a record of 5-2, having a pretty good year. Yelich is 9 for 26 career-wise against Clayton Kershaw. All the other Brewers on this roster, 1 for 37 with 23 Ks. That's incredible. I had to read that tweet like 3 or 4 times to make sure I got it right. And if it's coming from Adam McCalvy, there's a lot of credibility behind it. Yelich, 9 of 26 versus Kershaw. The rest of the Brewers on this roster, 1 for 37 with 23 Ks. Combine that with the Brewers' current roster, can't hit left-handed pitching. And we have a problem, everybody, against Clayton Kershaw coming up. Now, the good news here, Wade Miley. The Brewers, I want to say, their best pitcher this year. Now, last Thursday, he was cruising through 6 innings and had a 4-0 lead in Colorado and ran into a stone wall and got beat. Colorado scored 4 runs that inning to tie it, and then a 5-run 8th inning opened the floodgates for a trouncing. The Rockies gave the Brewers in a 3-game sweep. But Wade Miley, I got a feeling it's going to be a low-scoring game on Sunday. I already see the Brewers are a slight underdog, like minus 120 going into this one. No, I think it's even more than that. No, I think today they were a slight underdog. Tomorrow, the Brewers are a minus 160. Heavy underdog at home against Clayton Kershaw. And then again, if you know the numbers, and people, the bettors out there will study these numbers and to see what Adam McCalvy put out tonight, the sharp guys, and will say, oh my gosh, got to jump on that number. But who knows, with baseball, things turn around quickly, don't they? Things turn around real quickly, but Wade Miley got to bounce back after his bad 7th inning last Thursday in Colorado. All right, we covered a lot here on the show in a 6-2 Brewers loss. Flat effort, and let's face it, there's not one optimistic Brewer fan out there thought they were going to come back after getting down 6-0. Hell, I thought the game was over at 4-0. Some of you might have thought it was over when Mookie led off the game. Mookie Betts with a leadoff home run and with Lauer on the hill. Some of you might have been in the done club at that point. I wouldn't go that far, but it was not a good night in many aspects. Bottom line is, Brewers went another day without Devin Williams is still on this roster. Just haven't had opportunities to use him. That's pretty amazing, huh? One time they've used him since April 29th. Hopefully a chance to close out a game tomorrow with Wade Miley on the hill, maybe a low-scoring game, and maybe toward the end of that, Strzelecki and Williams combining to shut down the Dodgers and get out of there with taking 2 of 3 with the Kansas City Royals in a first of a 3-game set coming up on Friday night. Looking forward to being out at AmFam Field this weekend to cover the team. All right, that's going to do it. Again, tomorrow's broadcast on Sirius XM. That'll be starting at 12:40. And, of course, you get the Brewer hometown broadcast, Sirius XM, Brewers and Dodgers, 12:40 coming up on Wednesday afternoon. Catch all the Brewers hometown broadcasts on Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search Brewers. And I want to thank you all also as well, making Locked On Brewers your first choice every day. We are the #1 podcast, Brewer podcast on the internet. And the reason we have loyal everydayers out there, people like you, and I'll be back here later on Wednesday night, dropping a podcast after the afternoon game, absorbing all the material, and we'll have a great 30-minute podcast looking ahead to Kansas City. And, of course, I want to let you know right now, Thursday is an off day for the Brewers, but we're going to be dropping Thursday night, Friday morning. I'll be dropping a mailbag. Oh, we're going to be taking your questions, tweets. If you want to give me some comments on YouTube, we're going to do a complete half-hour open line on the mailbag on Locked On Brewers. That's going to be coming up on Thursday's show. So between now and then, please drop me a note on Twitter, and love to answer all your questions right here on Locked On Brewers. And I appreciate everybody out there for making Locked On Brewers your first listen to every day. That's going to do it for me. I'm Chuck Freeman of Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Come on, let's take 2 or 3 for the Dodgers. We'll talk to you after the game tomorrow, everybody. So long.